Tributes and eulogies from the media, international leaders, and old friends came in from all over the world.
Situation during the Carter presidency.
When he made contact, when you made eye contact with him and that smile came out, it was just dazzling.
St. Louis native Jane Von Canel speaking exclusively to First Alert 4 on her experience working for the Carter White House in both of his presidential campaigns.
You had to have a thick skin.
Former President Jimmy Carter died December 29th at the age of 100, almost 44 years after he left the White House. Von Canel, pictured here with First Lady Rosalind Carter, worked in his political liaison and personnel office, which was considered the nerve center of the White House. She has fond memories of Carter putting solar panels on the building.
He was way ahead of the curve.
She says she is proud to work for a president who made a point of appointing women to prominent positions. 41 women to federal judgeships, including future Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and 3 women were given positions in his presidential cabinet.
That changed people's perception that women were leaders, that they were competent, that they were trustworthy. Young people, college students could say, I could be a judge. I could be a federal judge, or, I could run the Department of Labor.
Print was given to One Norton Shores Man by Jimmy Carter himself. For Gary Packingham, it's a touching reminder of the time he spent working with the former president, one that he holds close to his heart after Carter's passing.
That's my boss at EPA.
Artist.
I watercolor.
Veteran.
Uncle Sam came and drafted me into the Navy.
And politician.
I was 27 years old, the youngest township trustee in Ohio.
Gary Packingham has held a lot of titles in life.
It was hard not to get drawn into that environment.
But it's his title as employee to former President Jimmy Carter that's near and dear to his heart.
Left my job, walked down the street, was probably going to go back to school, and decided I got nothing to do. I'm going to go volunteer for Carter right now.
Gary worked his way from a volunteer for Carter's local campaign in Ohio to working for his national campaign as the treasurer down in Georgia.
On the one hand, he was exceedingly bright and brilliant, and he was never willing to compromise his principles, but he was open to different ways to get there.
He describes his relationship with Carter as a working one, something that made his visit to Carter's home in 1976 even more special.
He had been out walking in the woods with Amy, and he come in and he had his plaid shirt and jeans on and pine needles in his hair, and just an ordinary person. The house was like the one I grew up in. There's nothing pretentious about it whatsoever.
An ordinary person covering Gary's walls with extraordinary memorabilia.
These are prints that were gifted to staff members. I've got letters from him thanking appreciation, thank you for my service and everything.
Though the news of Carter's passing was anticipated, Gary says it doesn't make it any easier.
You're not prepared for the emotions that just keep rolling.
And he'll forever be a part of Gary's journey through life.
Jimmy Carter changed the trajectory of my life, which allowed me to influence other people in a positive way. And so his legacy will live on in ways that don't get written about or anything, but it happens. It's still going forward. When a man passes, his legacy continues.
ABC 7 News reporter Suzanne Font talked to people around the Bay Area who knew and remember President Carter.
Stays as president, and he did so much.
Rob Coughlin worked for President Carter in the White House and the Federal Environmental Protection Agency.
I will always think that it was one of the honors of my life to have been his friend.
Coughlin, a leading environmentalist, wrote the book Surfer in the White House. Coughlin says he was impressed by Carter's commitment to the environment and to human rights.
If anybody was going to go to heaven, it would have been Jimmy. He's the only American president that's been able to use the White House as a stepping stone to higher things. A few days later, we got our invitation, and I cashed in some frequent flyer miles and got a first-class ticket. It was raining in San Francisco and snowy all the rest of the way across the country. I was going to stay with my dear friend and former boss, Barbara Blum. Barbara was the director of President Carter's transition team, and she invited me to come be her special assistant when she took over as deputy administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Her house is an artistic experience all by itself, with sculptures and art and autographed portraits by Andy Warhol. The next day, I went to pick up my tickets at the historic old Omni Shoreham Hotel. President Truman liked to play poker there. I got my tickets okay and had breakfast with Les Francis and his daughter Krista. And Chuck and Nancy Paris joined us. Nancy ran the state of Florida for Jimmy when he ran for president. Chuck worked for Jimmy when he was governor and was chief of staff for Secretary of the Interior Cecil Andrus. When we lived there, I loved the Smithsonian museums, so I thought I'd stop by the Natural History Museum and see the dinosaurs and their great rock collection. But because of Jimmy's motorcade, Pennsylvania Avenue was closed and I had to walk across the mall. When I finally got there, it was closed. So I walked over to the old Trump Hotel. He sold it. He's trying to get it back now. I got a cheeseburger, a glass of milk, a cup of coffee, and a newspaper for only $63, plus a 20% tip. After lunch, I walked out in front to Pennsylvania Avenue and watched the Carter motorcade go by, including the trucks that brought in the horses for the memorial parade. I'm getting even more sentimental in my old age. It was 47 years ago that he walked the same route from the Capitol to the White House. I went to the Capitol on Wednesday and joined a small group of Carter's environmental staffers to see him lying in state. We met in the Senate for a reception along with the Navy Honor Guard.
Hi, I'm Midshipman First Class Miriam Solazo with the Naval Academy, and we came to accompany our superintendent to honor President Jimmy Carter.
And how about you? Who are you?
Oh, Rob, don't you remember? Too many memories. Anyway, I'm here. My name is Cookie Collinet, and I'm here to honor Jimmy Carter, but act as a representative of the Carter years in Washington and thereafter.
Dollars of energy R&D.
So Carter.
Reagan.
Obama comes up, not quite as high, but that is almost the best visual portrayal.
Fletcher, and I was on the domestic policy staff. Stu Eisenstadt was my boss, and I had the privilege of helping Carter realize some amazing things for the environment, including protecting over 100 million acres of wilderness in Alaska and reforming the way we thought about water projects and boondoggles around the country. And you know, Carter, he was both a good and a great man, and I just feel privileged to have known him.
Our little group walked through the tunnel from the Senate over to the Capitol. The Carter Center estimated that 10,000 people came by to pay respects. We walked in behind the changing of the guard. On the underside of the Capitol dome, 180 feet above us, I looked up and saw the fresco painted in 1865, the Apotheosis of George Washington ascending to heaven. We walked out to stand with Jimmy one last time. We stood next to him for 2 or 3 of the most powerful minutes in my 81 years. We rode back to the Senate office building on the senator's tram.
My name is Major Eileen Babin, originally from Missoula, Montana, but here working as a Senate liaison, escorting the guests of President Carter.
What do you think of him so far?
Oh, it's awesome. It's been a privilege and an honor. I mean, the people who came last night, the people who are coming through today, it's been really good.
I stopped by to pay respects to California's new senator, Adam Schiff. But because he's a new kid on the block, he has a little office in the basement by the cafeteria. He wasn't there, so I went over to get a hot dog, and there was Adam Schiff getting a salad. I told him the last time I met him was at Senator Dianne Feinstein's memorial. I finished up a fabulous day by returning to the Natural History Museum and saw the elephants and the dinosaurs and the great gem and mineral collection. On Thursday morning, we woke up at 6 and went to the hotel to give our dear friend Jane Diana's invitation and get our police-escorted shuttle buses to the National Cathedral. I know we had good seats because PBS anchor Judy Woodruff and her husband and Wall Street Journal reporter Al Hunt were sitting right behind us. And Bill Gates was a few rows back. And just about then, I passed out. When I woke up a few minutes later, they rushed me to Georgetown Hospital. Chanel rode with me in the ambulance.
Hi, my name's Celeste, and I am your nurse for today.
I spent the next 10 hours in the hallway of the emergency ward. I felt bad because compared to everyone else that was there, I felt fine. But I missed all the beautiful eulogies at the cathedral and the staff reunion party.
So I'm Dr. Sue Janin, one of the internal medicine doctors here. And I was just telling your husband that the ultrasound of his heart looks normal.
The evil dehydration seems to have been the culprit. So I went back to Barbara's the next day, and Barbara and Jane and I talked until 3 in the morning. We reminisced about working in the White House and being part of President Carter's team. And we commiserated on the current state of the Union. And naturally caught up on all the kids and the grandkids.
I had 2 grandchildren that I adopted. That's 14. So that's directly 14.
And they're all Democrats?
Oh, yeah. Every single one of them. And not just going to vote, but verbal and volunteering. And I mean, they are all, yes. Can you imagine that?
When we were in Mom's swearing-in ceremony at the Rose Garden, I'm standing next to him and I'm towering over him. I'm 16 years old. I'm 6'2", and he's like comes up to my shoulders and, okay, kids, we're gonna have our picture taken with Jimmy.
45 years ago, the day I left the government, Barbara gave me this beautiful plaque. She said she didn't need a speechwriter to inscribe it. Rooney, Barbara's rescue dog, Karen, and Barbara all bundled up for a walk, and I got a ride by the frozen Potomac River to get my plane home. Many thanks and heartfelt congratulations to the Carter Center and family for organizing and including us in such a great tribute, and Apotheosis for such a great man. As Ambassador Andrew Young said at the memorial, he may be gone, but he ain't gone far.